We're back. Oh my gosh, how you feeling?
I'm actually dead excited
Oh my
about
God.
this. This is going to be so good.
Between the Sheets business edition.
We
How
are
you
back.
feeling?
We are back. We are back.
Oh my
Why
gosh.
are we back? What are we going to talk about? What have we been doing? Where have you been? It's been a while.
Business, family, God, purpose.
Marriage, family, business, family, marriage. It's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been busy, but we really wanted to come back, speak to you amazing people. But with this episode, we really want to talk about the truth about HR. So since the last podcast, we have grown as an organization, as a business, and kind of just wanted us to have a safe space to just talk about some of the challenges, the ups and the downs of business from a HR and staff perspective. So how's things been from your perspective, Sabrina?
Do you know what? Over the last, let's say, year and a half, we have gone through. Well, I have experienced incredible challenge when it's come to staffing, HR, and also just challenge in terms of my own development and growth as a leader. I've gone from having lots of staff, like 12 to 15 staff members, going right back down to 4. And that in itself has been a massive challenge. Steering the journey, steering the organisation in a different way, that's been hard as well. I think learning how to pivot again, and it's not COVID-19, has been a real challenge.
That's good. That's good. Excellent. So I want to take you back, if we can. So around about 2019, 20, I think it was. When did we get that tender? That allowed us to go from just 2 staff to about 6 staff.
2020.
So it's 2020.
2020, in the midst of the lockdown pandemic. It was August 2020.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How that moment when you received the phone call. How
I
did
cried.
that
So what was happening was we were in pandemic. We couldn't go anywhere. We was locked up at home. And I remember, I feel like a lot of people did this actually, do renovations. I was building IKEA furniture at the time. And the phone rang. I'd put in this tender for one of our services to move it from being a local small provision to being a regional provision. So going from 1 locality to 7. And the guy was like, I'm going to come back to you. We're going to let you know over this bank holiday period in August. And he emailed, and I never saw it because I was there building furniture. So then he phoned to say, do you know what, Sabrina, just want to let you know, the paperwork will come through, but I want to let you know that you've been successful in securing this fund, this money. But this money was like a life-changing amount of money for the organisation. It meant that instead of having 1 or 2 people recruited, we could now start to onboard 5 members of staff.
So I remember that moment. I remember seeing you
cried.
on the floor, crying your eyes out. And for me, it was like an answer to prayer. And one of the things that I want to try and articulate through the episode is like, we have seen a growth. So go back a bit. It's just the 2 of us.
Yeah.
We're standing in faith.
Yeah.
We're praying. We're believing that God can turn things around. We're believing that God can turn things around for us. And we're putting in different tenders. We're going for different bids for the business. And suddenly we actually get a yes. And one of the things that I think is important to note is that yes probably came after about 10 no's.
Easily.
And
but let's back it up a little bit, because it was 2 of us, but it was 1 of us really being paid at that time. So this new money was going to mean that I could move into being paid through employment and through business and stuff like that. And it was going to change a lot for us. So, you're praying for something, you really want to, you're like, God, please, like, let's let this happen. And then when it happens, it's like,
so we fast forward. We actually start hiring offices. We start recruiting staff.
Have you ever tried, Emma, I'm going to ask the question. People don't recruit in the pandemic. Like, how we had to recruit at that time was incredible.
It was all online interviews.
Online interviews. Like, you couldn't really get to know people face to face.
Yeah.
And even the service, because the service was delivering was meant to be an in-person service. That then went online as well. So everything changed.
Yeah. So we've gone into the offices.
Yeah.
We've rented some offices, some nice plush offices in Wolverhampton, up the Black Country. We've recruited in the staff team. we've trained the staff to the best of our ability through our standing operation procedure manual.
Yeah.
But then I feel we started to go through what I think was challenges because we started to grow, because not only did we get successful with that, there was other tenders that we went for, and then from a space of like just being one person, two of us being paid, to almost like we got to a point where there's about 14 people on the payroll and we're growing. But what were some of the challenges from your lens that we think that we started to encounter? I've got mine, but I just want to do ladies first because I'm a gentleman.
Because you're a gentleman. I guess recruiting and onboarding at that speed. I mean, I look back now in hindsight and I think I would never do that again, because what that means is that you are kind of looking for people to fill a need really quickly. And I'm not convinced, well, I know full well at that time we were as robust as we could have been with our recruitment processes.
What I think is interesting when I reflect is the people that are still with us are the ones that we recruited through the whole process. So we've done an application, we've done a panel interview, we've got 2 references, we've done what is it called?
DBS, the right to work, of this stuff.
All of that stuff, and really took our time with going through our manuals and our procedures. But those who are kind of recruited through kind of a handshake because of proximity were the ones I feel that could have been the most problematic.
Yeah, Nathan.
I'm sorry.
I know you're saying sorry because there's a difference in who I recruited and how I recruited and how you recruited. And I think, but that also came from a point of need. So I'm not throwing you under the bus.
No, you kind of did, but it's okay. It's all right.
But it was, forgive me, but it wasn't.
I might do. Let me see. Yeah, I will. Really.
It wasn't so much that we didn't have time. That is the problem when you're growing so fast. Like these contracts and stuff were coming through thick and fast. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're not even thinking we're going to win some of them. Yeah. Even the ones we're really thinking, they're probably not going to go for. They're like, yeah, let's go, guys.
And that's a thing that is two points I want to bring out. Is there's this saying that says it's better that you recruit slow and hire fast.
No.
Yeah. Go on.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Okay. Hire. Say again.
Hire slow.
Yeah.
Fire fast.
Fire fast.
Fire fast.
Yeah. And then there's another thing around this analogy of the chicken and egg syndrome. And I think this is important for other business leaders, because sometimes you think, is it the chicken first or the egg first? So what I mean by that is, do you just recruit staff hoping that you're going to get successful tenders and contracts and then you have the whole infrastructure ready? Or do you go for the infrastructure and then recruit? And it's a kind of like I call it the chicken and egg cycle, because you don't want to recruit people and give people false promises, because you need to have the cash in the bank to be able to pay them. And sometimes the contracts need to be turned around quite fast. So I think that sometimes can be problematic. I think some of my other reflections in terms of recruiting, what you just said, that saying there, is
hire slow, fire fast.
Is that we didn't at times.
No, we didn't.
Hire slow.
Not at all.
And then,
or fire fast.
Yeah. And then it's about, for those who are listening, I would say that you should do that. You should actually take your time. Don't try and run too fast, because I think we started to have problems through that. What do you think was some of the problems that we had as a business?
Managing expectations of those who were recruited. And I think the nature of our sector, because our sector is a lot of statutory services, public sector, voluntary sector, they want things done yesterday. Like they give you the contract and it should be complete almost when they give it to you. There's no patience within it. And I think that also breeds the problem of when you're recruiting, that you go in with that mindset that come on, almost like we're behind, but actually we haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
So that in itself is a problem, but also the expectations of people. We've had a lot of people that want to help us, which is lovely, but it's not really a help I need your skill set.
What do you think about me? I feel like that's why I'm glad I wasn't too involved, but I was involved with HR and we got an independent department. But I feel like I got too much emotionally involved.
You, man. Oh my gosh. Emotional involvement, definitely. You took it personally.
Yeah, you know
You took
why?
it personally when people weren't doing what you would do.
Yeah. So I remember like certain times, like I come to the office unannounced, and then people are like on their phone or on social media and just doing something that's not to do with the job, and I'll just like I'll bite my tongue, and I'll be like, hold on, what's going on? Because you know what it was? It was the trauma of like trying to build.
Yeah.
So I know that to be able to get any opportunity come into the business and organization, it took probably like 90-hour weeks
Yeah.
of sacrifice, sleepless nights.
It took 100 no's.
But then you have
yes.
staff members that are kind of
Swanning
in, come 15 minutes late, but when it comes to the end of the month and it's pay time, they want that full hour paid. And it's just like, what is going on here?
Or they invoice us for the biscuits that they bought.
Yeah. And it's like, all of that was just new and stuff that I needed coaching for.
It's all up in there, isn't it? I can see like the clouds,
I feel like
the
I'm
thunder
healed now.
clouds.
That's why I'm doing this, because I'm healed. I'm not there anymore. But I want to talk through it, because for other founders or business owners, they may not understand that that's going to potentially happen if you don't recruit properly.
Yeah.
And if you don't set the culture, the DNA of the organization you're trying to build.
I think we always set the DNA of the organization. That's always something that I feel has come through quite a lot. But I think the difference between your kind of leadership and management style and mine is that you are very much in the thing. Like, you want to see, you're on top, you want to answer for everything at every moment. Whereas I like to give autonomy to the team to decide and figure it out. And I think that was the challenge for you. That was the friction point, because you'd be like, what are they actually doing? But then the work was getting done and things were happening in a way that
I remember a friction point with you.
Did it? Oh my God. It's business truth, isn't it? Go on. Let me hear.
So I like to do team meetings and start with a check-in.
Yeah.
So like 2 wins and a challenge, or how's your week been? How's yesterday been? Quite therapeutic. I think that's my counseling and psychotherapy training. So I always want to like make sure everyone's emotionally well. And you're like, Nathan, we don't have time for this.
But we don't.
These are the contractual deadlines. These are the outputs I want.
Yeah, because when things are, when checking in is spilling into like we're having a therapeutic session and it's taken an hour to get through everyone's check-in because everyone's got life going on outside of the job.
Yeah.
It's now infringing on our time, so we could be spending more time talking about how we're feeling rather than actually getting the work done. So there was a challenge.
It's true.
In that. However, I did keep 2 wins in a challenge. We just had to keep it to
more shorter.
More concise.
How random Krispy Kreme donuts in the team meetings.
I mean, yeah.
You think that's good?
It's all. I mean, well, what are we promoting here? Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
I think bringing treats, bringing gifts, I think that's your style.
Yeah.
But I think when it's not reciprocated, so if somebody else doesn't do it back, you kind of feel a bit like, well, hold on, what's going on here? Like, there'll be a lot of take, but not a lot of give. I feel like that's how you probably felt. Whereas I'm more interested in, can you just get the work done, the contracts done, the reports signed off, and then we'll celebrate after.
Yeah. So one of our pain points, I think, that's been there is having poor recruitment practices that lead to unqualified staff. What's your thoughts about that?
I'm just looking at you. Yeah, I think it's definitely, over time, we've learned that, you know what, the policies and procedures that you create for your organization are not there just to sit in a folder. And I think that's one of the things that we had. We had every single thing. We had every policy, how to onboard, how to recruit. And we didn't do it to start with because I think we were under pressure to fill the quota of staff that we needed. We were running at a million miles an hour, emerging from a global pandemic as well at the same time, and trying to navigate this new, they call it the new normal. So we were just finding people and doing things. And what it meant was that we were getting people that were willing, but weren't necessarily able. So they were willing, they wanted to do it. You know, the minute you mentioned youth violence and things like that, people are like, yeah, I want to help the young people. Oh my gosh, we've got some stories from interviews of people literally just showing up on the Zoom and been just like, yeah, I want the job, but not knowing what the job is, not knowing where it's going to be, not actually understanding the the role. We need
I
to look
think
at where we actually recruited as well, where, not just how.
I do think, even though it's not really what I wanted to speak about, but I do think just from some of, obviously we've had to go independent and have an independent HR department that helps us recruit, put our job advertisements out into a much more wider demographic and space. But I remember originally we'd probably like get about 70 applications for a job, and then we'll read through the application forms are coming back in text language.
Yeah,
And
people were using like WhatsApp language and not using
no qualifications.
Yes.
And then I felt like for some people they was just applying because it was something to satisfy the job center or something like
Yeah.
that. But I think once we separated and got someone independent to help us with our recruitment process, I think that helped improve the quality. But I do think there is just a gap in terms of how you come to a job, because we've had people come on in an interview in a vest and all their tattoos out and saying, yeah, I'm the person for the job. And we're like, is this real? Like, we're looking at each other like trying to be non-judgmental, but it's like a vest.
You're fully judging.
Yeah, fully. I know you shouldn't have unconscious biases.
Though
Yeah.
that's really not appropriate for a job interview.
Yeah, yes.
Especially working with young people.
So Sabrina, from your perspective, like, why do you think businesses, organizations like ours struggle when it comes to hiring and recruitment?
Two things come to mind: capacity and resources. So when you're hiring, it's actually quite a costly thing to do. You have got to have the time, so it costs your time. You've got to have the time to put out the advert. If you don't have an external organization doing that for you, you need to know where you're advertising. You need to know what your job description is. You need to make sure you know all the HR laws and rules that are around that. You need to have your own robust recruitment practices. And then you need to have the process of bringing people in, so the interviewing, the CV checking, or whatever you're doing, the reference checking. It's a palaver, like recruitment.
What does palaver mean?
Palaver. Like, it's actually hard work. And that's what I can see why large scale companies have a whole department that take care of that, or they use independent people to take care of it, because you need to know what you are doing. It's really easy to just recruit to fill a gap, but it's the wrong person.
From my perspective, I do believe it goes down to money, which we're going to talk about in the next episode. The reason why I say that, because when I think about all of the contracts and things that we've been successful in and in getting, there's never really a budget line for HR. It's just like a given, like, oh, you can recruit the staff,
Or you
but
have
actually,
them.
or you have them. And HR needs a department. It needs like a qualified person that understands employment law, understands how to do a proper job description and, you know, a specification, and just help you with the whole process. And I think sometimes we're kind of like shortchanging ourselves by just trying to, deliver the work, but don't have enough resource and capacity, as you're saying, to kind of like just have that quality time.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're rushing through the process. Because when I think about the times when I've been a part of the recruitment process, this is like a whole day each time.
Yeah.
In terms of
Interviewing.
the interviewing the different people, shortlisting, doing the scoring system, comparing notes with the panel members, making those decisions. And it is hard, because a lot of the time you're saying no more than you're saying yes.
Absolutely.
And then you got to do the induction process and probation period to see if the person fits within the culture of the organization, if they are who they say they are. We've had staff that have like got through all of the processes, but when it actually came to live delivering the work, straight away within 2 hours, couldn't do it. Like, just the pressure of actually doing the work. So I think that's a real challenge for organizations and companies in terms of just having that capacity. And when you think about, if you want the creme of, the creme, say that word for me.
Creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme. Creme de la creme. There's obviously certain publications and certain platforms that you can use, but all of those publications and platforms cost money.
Yep.
To be able to get that right level. And it's always knowing, like, where do you prioritize the budgets in terms of that.
Because it reverts right back to what you said, though. When you are writing that contract or writing that tender or bid or whatever you're doing, and if you don't have the staffing, you have to onboard for more, then that has to be a cost that you include, because it's impossible. You won't get, they say you get what you pay for. You won't get it you won't get good if you don't put the money into it. When it comes to recruiting, what do you think some of the dangers are of recruiting from, the inner circle, your network, your personal network? I'm going to let you answer because I got answers for days.
Oh my God, this is business truths. I remember one day we was in the office and one of our staff members called us and says, I'm here with the staff trying to complete the onboarding process. And the staff member is cussing in Patwa saying, me not give you no documents because that is Babylon system.
Yep.
And you now get my passport and you now get my information. Why you want my information?
Yeah.
And it was starting to process. We're going through our process, the due diligence, and then we're getting attacked and cussed out by staff saying, why you want my details for? Babylon system. What is this? Why do you need to photocopy my stuff? And you start to realize that there's a certain like paranoia out there that's like, we're gonna do something. We don't have GDPR policies where we're gonna actually look after your data and stuff like that. And that was like a shock. I remember like just looking at you across the office thinking, huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And then they had to just send in a strong message to say, if you did not give that documentation, by the end of the day, you will not be working and you can go and work elsewhere. So that's a problem. Yeah. Another problem is just the timekeeping and familiarity, just like rocking up. Like the team meeting starts at 2:00, but you're arriving at 2:30
Yeah.
with big food, especially like some of our staff coming from the African Caribbean community, like big soup, fried dumpling, rice and peas, and just like taking out all their food and be like, hold on,
It's a meeting.
this is a meeting. Like, what is going on? And it's all these different cultural things, and then you say like, excuse me, can you pack away your food? I'm hungry. And it's like, this is some of the truth. This is the truth.
Yeah.
This is the stuff. And then I remember like,
I can't wait to ask these questions.
yeah. So I remember, obviously, I would definitely advocate, and I would say to everyone, whatever you do not hire family, because I had a situation where, unfortunately, I had to fire a family member, and it was one of the hardest meetings of my life, because you have that relationship level in terms of family, but then I have to take on the role as boss.
Yeah.
And bring the boss energy and say, unfortunately, based on this misconduct, you are no longer welcome to work here, and do that firing. And that is really hard, because you have relationships with people outside of the work. And that is my biggest regret. Like, I will never, ever, unless a miracle happens,
Never
recruit family or close friends.
No.
Because when things go wrong, and when you're challenging people for reports or hitting the deadlines or being on time, people take those challenges very personal, and then it gets the waters and muddy, and then it just causes upset. So I wouldn't do that. Like, thinking forward.
Definitely not. Blurring the lines, mate. That's what that is. We have a policy. I think it came in pretty much after we had the bonfire on giving my documents that said we're not recruiting anybody that we know, basically. But tell me, how many of those members were you responsible for recruiting? This is business truths.
Every one of them.
And that goes back to your heart, because your heart is very much.
That's why I think my heart has been broken when it comes to HR, because at the end of the day, like, I think like one of my gifts is I see people's potential.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see the people that might come to us are not like the finished article, and I can see like, oh my gosh, and you know what it is? It's because I've seen how my life has been impacted by giving a second chance. Is that making sense? And sometimes you're trying to give people a second chance or give people an opportunity. For me, I have seen it that like we've been blessed, and I really believe in like I'm blessed to be a blessing. So sometimes I'm seeing people from my community where I've grown up, and I'm trying to give opportunities, like really, because I really want to help them with their social mobility, help them with their finances.
Yeah.
These are individuals with family and stuff like that. Like we've had situations where we've been good, our accounts are healthy, everything's healthy, and the people are coming to me for an opportunity, and I'm always trying to find a way. That's what I was doing before, to like fit them in type of thing, to give an opportunity. Because I had this kind of like, I don't know if it's warped, but this kind of mindset of like I don't want to forget where I'm coming from. I know that's probably a bad thing or a good
It's
thing,
not a bad thing.
but then just not having enough policy and safeguarding around me, and then me knowing that I'm a strong character, a strong leader. Like if I want something and I see something, it's very hard to kind of like steer me other ways. So I do take my hat off to you, because I know that must have been times you can see things a mile off, but I can't see it because my heart's involved. I'm trying to give an opportunity, and then when it's not worked out, and then I feel like people have been ungrateful or haven't seen what we've tried to do for them, it has caused me to be like hurt, and to be honest, with some scenarios, take it to like personal therapy, because it's like, I've done all this stuff for you, and then you just kind of like throw it in my face. That's been hard to deal with.
Definitely. But I think it's the difference between not knowing that it's recruiting and not trying to save them. And that's part of the journey for you, is differentiating the difference and knowing the difference. The safeguarding is now actually they have to go through the robust process.
Yeah. And I think the decision that we made around actually taking me off the recruitment panel was actually a good decision. Because I remember the last recruitment panel I was on, like the person didn't even score high on the numbers.
You're still trying to,
and I was like,
them.
but come on, look at them. And I wasn't it. I was really trying to find a way. I said, why don't we just even volunteer? And he was like, no, Nathan, they haven't scored on competencies, knowledge, qualification, all these things, which are all you could say red flags. And I'm trying to ignore the red flags because I'm like, opportunity. And that's a lesson learned, hard lesson learned, but it's something that I'd recommend people who listen to this podcast is to really put an infrastructure around you to safeguard your own decision making, because sometimes you can have blind spots. Your blind spots could be your upbringing, where you're coming from. If you've come from like the harsh reality, I'm coming from poverty, I'm coming from inner city living, to becoming a place where we're managing significant budgets, being able to recruit staff and trying to help at the same time, but making, I would say, not wise decisions during that process. I'm so grateful that we've had this opportunity to just talk about the truths around staff and HR. Like, we've been blessed, truly been blessed, and we've had a lot of growth. But with that growth comes challenges, and for anyone that's on their journey, growing their business, their organization, just understand that with growth can come challenges. But what would be some of the kind of key top tips that you'd give? And before we do that, I just wanted to ask you, like, because I remember a time in a team meeting when it was on a Monday, and we was looking at the HR app, and we had realized that probably at least 6 staff members were all requesting annual leave at the same time. But what do you think about that? And if businesses have that, like, how do we manage that?
No. This is so the short answer. No, you can't all have a holiday at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is why we have software. Because who can remember when such and such wants this day off and such wants that day off? Like, your little notebook isn't going to make sense. Your Excel spreadsheet isn't going to help you.
Yeah.
Like, and even your calendar isn't going to really do it for you, because you're not going to see the clashes, and also you're not going to be able to remember how much time people have already had. So, because I remember we had that where people thought they had more holiday left than they were entitled to. And so software, HR software, will help you to keep track of holidays. It will help you to onboard properly with all the right things that you need. You can have contracts and things all on the software on that person's profile. And you can also like exit people through a proper, it's called like exit wizards, where you can make sure you go through the correct channels
Yeah.
to offload people as well. So obviously my answer to all of that was, well, no, you couldn't all go at the same time, and we're looking at how can we rearrange or what can we do.
I'm really proud of the systems that we do have in place, because even when we've had to do exiting and stuff like that, we've got the procedure and the whole format of how we do an exit interview, just to make sure we're checking in with our staff to make sure as they're leaving that we've gone through all the right procedure. But what was interesting sometimes on that journey is, and I'd encourage people who are listening, is that you got to remember that it's your business,
Yeah.
it's your organization. And the truth of the matter is that sometimes staff take those no's as personal. And because they can't see your lens and your viewpoint and your vantage point, they think that you're being spiteful. But a lot of the times you're looking at, hold on, if all the staff go off in this week or in this month, how are we going to be able to deliver the work and the contracts that we need to deliver? And it's just understanding. And I don't think staff would ever understand the bigger scope and the longer term view that we will have as leaders. But it's never personal. It never has been personal. It's for the best interest
It's
of the business.
operational, and that's the difference between an owner or the leader of a business and somebody that works in it for you.
Yeah.
They won't understand the bigger context, and they won't work in it like how you will work in it if it belongs to you. That's the difference. And anyone that's starting up a company is very different to working for somebody. You won't necessarily get all of the things you want to get together at the same time. But when it comes to staff and hiring and recruiting, things have to be done properly. People have a lot of rights. There are lots of laws and rules and regulations around staff and staff hours, holiday, even like lunch breaks and things like that. All of that has to be factored in. Count the cost. People don't think about things like national insurance contributions, pensions, your legal requirement to pay pension contribution. All of that is important. And when you're doing, we go back to money, but when you're doing your proposal to recruit 5 members of staff, remember, it's not just their salary you're paying.
And actually, that's what I wanted. That was one of the kind of like controversial things I wanted to say.
Okay.
Someone might hear, for example, just pluck a figure out. Oh, wow, Nathan, you've just won, or you've just got £200,000. And someone can hear that figure and think, oh my God,
Nathan has £200,000.
And it's like, people do not understand
No.
how, like, even if you was, say, recruiting in 4 staff at a basic salary of 25k,
God,
yeah,
it's not enough.
then you have to do the on costs, national insurance, you got to do pension contributions, you've got to pay for office space, all the different like miscellaneous, like we're going to get into it in the next episode. But how do you deal with that, Sabrina? Because I know we've had scenarios whereby people have wanted pay increase and have probably felt offended with the no.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
They'll have to be offended with the no. You as a leader has to know what it is. You can't please everybody. You definitely can't please anybody, actually. You're going to upset somebody. But one of the things that I've always made very clear is that this is the rate. And do you realise that when you look at your pay slip, how many other things come out? Like, look at your pay slip. It's not just you see tax and think, oh, somebody else is paying that. No. The organisation is covering that cost. And that's the bit that a lot of people skip over. You're not, there's no escaping it. Everyone's always going to want more. But what can you do as a leader? If you can't give more, you can't give it. That's it.
Yeah.
And people have to swallow that, unfortunately, or fortunately. Well, there's the door.
Yeah. So what would your final thoughts be? We've had an opportunity, which I'm really grateful for, to talk about business truths, the truth about staff and HR. What would your final thoughts be?
My final thoughts on my solutions would be, make sure that when you're recruiting, you do it slowly. Take your time. Do not rush. Do not hire anybody just because you think, oh yeah, they'll fit. Make sure you go through the correct policies and procedures. If you're finding it hard to do it, and you can, outsource it. We have a HR department that is outsourced, and they write everything from the beginning to the end. So from when they're coming and to when they're leaving our organisation. And I can go to them at any time and check that I'm doing things properly, so I'm not breaking any rules. I would also say invest in software, things like the recruitment software. There's loads of different HR softwares out there that can help you to manage and monitor your staff. You can manage hours, rates of pay, holiday, all of that, because you can't do it all. That's the key to this.
Yeah.
In business, you can't do it all. We're one person. I can't be HR, legal, marketing, sales. I can't be all of that. So I have to find ways to make sure that it's done properly.
I would say that growth is actually a beautiful thing, even though it's a challenging, because it does help you to, when you have the right people and those people are working alongside you and helping you build the vision and create the mission, is phenomenal, because actually you get chance to stay in that strategic lane. And for me, I love and absolutely love doing business development, and you can just run with it and like really develop the business, bring in new contracts. And when you have the right people like standing side by side and actually at times lifting you up, it can be a phenomenal stuff. It can be a phenomenal thing. But I think we've learned lessons that actually it's better to just do things slower, to take your time, and then when things are going wrong, do it fast, like get fire fast, and don't feel ashamed about it. Don't feel bad about it. It's just how it is, and just know that you're making a difference. Like I have truly, like even though it's been hard at times, I've truly loved being able to know that, wow, every month when we pay people, that we're making a difference to other people's lives. And you see people who have families who work for us, and you think to yourself, wow, like because we said yes, because we was obedient to the call on our life, that we've been able to create opportunities, create employment. And I'm really proud of that when I reflect back and I think, wow, because there has been times where we felt like throwing in the towel. And
I'm more than one.
yeah, and I always think back as like, what if I listened to that voice of doubt where it says, I'm not going to do it anymore? Imagine all the people that wouldn't have got employment.
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of lives that wouldn't have been impacted. It's a lot of community change, society change, financial, economical change. We've made a massive difference. And I will just say this, because I think it's important to end on a high, that it's not all doom and gloom when you're
Definitely not.
recruiting. You can have a lot of fun, you can recruit, and it could absolutely be disasters. We've had that. We've had to say bye to people. We've had to show people the door. We've had to go through all kinds of experiences. But at the same time, we've recruited some amazing people that have absolutely, I've watched them grow and develop. I've watched them grow and change. They're going to take on amazing roles and are now doing fantastic things in their life because they worked for us and they got to learn and develop too. So I think as long as it's a two-way street, as long as you are giving as much as you're getting as an employer as well, they should feel that you really want them to be there. It's not just the case of, oh, come and do the job. But I think we're big on honouring. I think that we do that quite a lot as well.
I think I'd definitely tag on that. Like, there's people that are, outside of work, they're no longer there, but they're still family.
Absolutely.
They're still part of the team. And one of the things, even though we don't do it for this, but I have really loved and appreciated the ones that do come back and show great honor. We've had situations, we've had flowers, we've been invited to dinner, we've been taken out, we've been given gifts, and it's so nice. You don't do it for that, but it's so nice to be appreciated. And yeah, I would say to anyone listening that has a business or is thinking about starting a business, is to keep on keeping on, because your yes can really transform many people's lives.
Absolutely.